Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com back to recap another Steelers preseason game. They get the victory over the Tennessee Titans 16-6 in week number 3, the tune-up game where most of the starters, all the healthy players play, and that's the last you'll see of them until the games count back coming up in week 1 when regular season action starts against the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers get the win 16-6 over Tennessee. Like we always do, just a short position by position recap of my initial thoughts. I've barely seen the game a second time through. I've seen a couple plays, have not watched the whole thing through. So, as always, I'd like to preface these videos by saying my thoughts and feelings are likely to change in some respects, and look for the things I say and the articles I write throughout the week for anything that might change, opinion wise. But we'll start with the quarterback play. Only 3. Josh Dobbs, unfortunately for him, the odd man out. So Ben Roethlisberger starts. A little bit of rust, that was obvious. Definitely missed a couple passes. Had a tough time connecting with Jesse James. There was the fake bubble screen down the seam on the left side that should have been a big play. That was just a flat out miss. One, I think, whole shot to James Washington along the right sideline. 10 feet out of bounds, so kind of unless that was a partial throwaway, it was a pretty bad miss from Roethlisberger, and he admitted being rustier than he cared to be after the game. But on the positive side, good for him to be healthy, first of all. Does not appear to be any major injuries coming out of this one across the board, so that's always a good sign, first and foremost, when you talk about preseason action. But him being healthy, I think generally looking, strong. They ran the no huddle pretty effectively. And obviously threw the touchdown pass to Justin Hunter, which was a great pass down the right sideline against a good corner and Adoree Jackson. Nice catch by Hunter. But yeah, good ball placement. They hook up for a 32-yard touchdown, the only Steelers touchdown of the game. So all things considered, that's why you play the preseason. You get a little extra reps. Ben went into the second quarter, which is generally not what happens with him in this third preseason game. But I think he wanted to get a little longer look at Ben, given some of the rust early on, the first, 2 drives it was, and I'm more than okay with that, and I think mission accomplished there for Big Ben as he gets ready for week 1. Landry Jones was pretty nondescript. Let me look at his stats here. Yeah, 6-9, 44 yards in the pick, which the interception was really more on Justin Hunter than anything that I thought Jones did wrong. But Landry's going to be your number 2 this year. I knew I kind of, before camp started, floated out the idea, well, maybe Mason Rudolph can make a push as the number 2. He needs to have a really good camp in preseason to do that, but that didn't exactly happen, and just based on the way they've used Landry Jones in this process, he's pretty clear-cut the number 2, the backup to Big Ben, and I assume will remain in that role the entire season, because it's hard for a number 3 quarterback whose reps are so limited to do anything to really elevate them above the number 2 during the course of the season. So that's going to be it for Landry Jones, his situation as the backup. Mason Rudolph, a little disappointing. At least in this one, the interceptions, there weren't any turnovers, and maybe his realization that he has to be more careful with the football and not turn it over is causing him to play a little too tentatively. Tomlin used that word last week. I thought you could use that word for this week with Mason Rudolph, not always pushing the ball downfield, kind of patting the football. You can kind of feel like he's a little unsure. Do I pull the trigger or not? Now, granted, it's tough to always tell what's available and what isn't open. Receivers don't always help you out. All those things are factors, but, definitely a very conservative, I think is a good word to use for Mason Rudolph, approach to this week for Mason Rudolph. 7 of 11, 65 yards. Takes a sack. The offensive line didn't really help him out towards the end of that. But, I want to see him be able to rip the football downfield, make good decisions when he is trying to push it downfield. And I didn't totally see that from him today. Some good pocket movement, some good progression, some good reading. And again, no turnovers. That's big for him. I'd like to see that. But you do want to see him kind of rip it, let it loose, and obviously he'll get a good opportunity to do that Thursday against the Panthers. Dobbs being the odd man out kind of tells you all you need to know. Even though Dobbs apparently will start against Carolina, he's the odd man out. He's quarterback 4, and there is no quarterback 4 on a 53-man roster. So we'll kind of have to see what they do with him. Do they try to do a trade, stash in the practice squad? There's a good discussion to be had about that, but he will not be on the 53-man roster. Running back, I know there wasn't a ton of room for James Conner, but I thought he caught the football well. I said all camp that he's a guy that looks pretty natural and pretty night and day from where he was at as a receiver last year. You could not split this guy out in an empty set last year and really feel comfortable and confident about it. This year's a different story, and he had a nice, I think, 12-yard gain out of an empty set coming across, into Ben's vision, working left to right for a nice gain there. So had a one-handed snag on a screen. Just look comfortable in that regard. So, I know the stats running the football aren't pretty because they weren't, but I think he's been his usual self as a runner, a downhill, hard-nosed kind of approach, and as a receiver, I think he's definitely elevating his game. The big name to talk about, obviously, is Jaylen Samuels, who I thought did some nice things against Green Bay. Thought he ran hard, was able to kind of make some potential negative plays and turn them into positive ones, and more of the same this week. Now, maybe I think there was some better blocking this week for him, a little bit more open space. Definitely not the most fluid kind of athlete. He's not on Connor's level. He's certainly not on Bell's level, but a guy that once he gets downhill, he kind of puts his foot in the ground and he gets a nice acceleration going and can run through a lot of arm tackles because he is a 225-pound back that I think has a good kind of run demeanor. So you saw him work in space, you saw him work as a receiver, and be able to capitalize as a runner. So got involved in run and pass, and that was kind of what got him drafted, was that versatility. I think he's probably more comfortable as a receiver right now. He's a guy that's very quick to the tuck. Has a good feel for space and where zone coverage is at and where defenders are. But I think you're seeing improvement as a runner. I think you've seen his pass blocking, which was just didn't exist. I mean, he didn't pass block at NC State. Show improvement. I kind of going back in the Green Bay game, looking at that more. I think you've seen definite improvement there. And a guy that I've had on my 53 throughout this process, and I'm not taking him off. And after a performance like this, against the Titans, certainly I think it's more people kind of seeing what I've been seeing with Jaylen Samuels in training camp, and it's now translating to in-stadium action. Now, the only disappointing thing with Samuels was I don't think he got any time with the ones. I thought he might get a couple work and some pony stuff or split out as a receiver. Don't believe that happened, but still a nice performance from Jaylen Samuels. Move on to the receivers now. Not as much to cover. Juju was his usual target self, had the bad drop, but made some tough catches over the middle, moving the sticks. Justin Hunter was very Justin Hunter. The highs. That was a great catch for that touchdown, but the lows, ran a wrong route, I think, on the second play of the game. And Ben, talked about that after the play. That would have been an 80-yard touchdown. I think Hunter was supposed to run a double move and go downfield on a go route, and he ran the out, forced Ben to go elsewhere, so missed chance there. Then the interception, which was a combative and a tough catch, but certainly one that you should and are expected to make. He didn't, results in a Titans interception. So up and down, inconsistent frustration. That's kind of the thing with Justin Hunter, unfortunately. So, I disappointed with James Washington. Didn't really have any performance today. He got hurt in, I think, the third quarter with abdominal injury. It doesn't seem severe, but we don't really know exactly the status of that injury. But no catches on 2 targets today, and after coming off good games against Philly and Green Bay, thought a good chance to work with the ones. Didn't really pan out. So still think he's going to be the starter, but that was obviously a little disappointing today not to really see him get involved with the ones and make some plays like he has basically at every other step in this process. Elsewhere for receiver, not a ton, I think, to really talk about. Trey Griffey got some time with the ones, even over Marcus Tucker, even before Tucker got hurt. So kind of an interesting note there. Tucker continues to do well as a blocker and a special teamer, but not much as a receiver. Don't think he was even targeted today. He's had a very quiet preseason as a receiver. He's doing other things to get him noticed, but not much as a receiver. Quadri Henderson got a little involved in the offense, so at least there was that. He did some return stuff, so at least he's getting a little bit of tape out there, but I think it's just too little too late for him. And then Damone Patterson. I've said that the biggest issue with him, speaking broadly, is his inconsistency, and you saw it again today. No receptions, 2 targets, so he's a guy that when he looks good, he looks great, but when it's bad, he tends to disappear, and that was kind of the same at Youngstown State. So I think all the talk about the 53-man roster spot for him was a little over the top, and I've always seen him as a very good practice squad candidate and someone that is certainly worth developing, but not a guy ready for the 53 yet, not a guy ready for NFL action. Just too up and down so far, and a little too limited, I think, to get you to that point. But he'll get a ton of time against the Panthers as well, so hopefully he can end things on a high note. Tight ends now. Obviously, the lines are getting super thin. You come into this thing, no Vance, no Grimble. And then Jesse James has the back contusion after that one catch where he skied up for it and landed pretty hard. So, I don't know what the depth chart's going to look like for next week. I don't know if they're going to have to make a move. You have McKeever, Hodges, and Christian Scotland Williamson as your three healthy guys right now. So you can probably get away with just playing those three and finishing out the game. You probably don't need to make a move, so that's good. But, you'll get those guys a lot of burn. I thought McKeever's looked the most impressive of those three and gotten a good amount of play time as well. So I think if you want to talk about, obviously Scotland Williamson already has a practice squad exemption spot, so he's already locked in. But if you want to add another tight end, I am leaning McKeever over Hodges, but I think the fourth game is going to help determine a lot of where that battle goes. But as usual, not much to talk about with the tight end position. Defensively, just overall, I thought, obviously a much better performance than last week. Still some issues, still some, chances the Titans could not capitalize on, but overall a good performance. The run defense has been really strong even in the Packers game. There was no running room. I think the Packers averaged under 3 yards a carry, and today they averaged 2.1 yards per carry on 20 attempts. Derrick Henry 5 for 12, Dion Lewis 3 for 11. So really stout run defense, which was nice to see. Defensive line did their thing to it to get that sack. Was great to see, although he did come in unblocked. Just to be fair on that, Hayward gets a sack. So, if you can get those guys a sack a piece a game, man, you're sitting pretty. Obviously, it's not going to happen exactly like that, but you saw them play to their potential and how dominant of a duo that they can be, and that has me really excited. So you have those two that played well. Levon Hooks continues to impress. A guy that's kind of transitioning into veteran status in a sense. This is, I believe, his 4th year in the league now. He's not a new guy to either the NFL or the Steelers. He's been with the Steelers for 3 years now after signing with Green Bay, coming out of Ole Miss. So, that's a guy that I think is definitely in the mix for a practice squad spot, and Hooks is a guy that seems to get better as camp goes on. This time last year, we were talking about coming out of the 3rd game that Hooks was running second team and getting a lot more opportunities, and I think you're seeing that translate again this year. He finishes today with a sack and some good run stuff. So a name to watch for sure is going to be Levon Hooks. A name that's kind of fading away is Josh Frazier. In my last roster prediction, I had Josh Frazier off the 53-man roster entirely, and I just think if you strip away the bias of Carl Dunbar and him being Frazier's college coach and the draft pick, and you just look at merit and who's playing well, I don't think you could justify going with Josh Frazier right now. And I don't know if you want to go with 3 nose tackles on your roster entirely, 53 plus practice squad. So I think Hooks is definitely a candidate to beat out Josh Frazier. And if they only keep one defensive lineman, which would make sense, then Hooks definitely could be the guy. Daniel McCullers did not play. Unfortunately, I believe it's a hamstring issue there, but at least he's had a good enough start to training camp in the preseason for him to kind of not necessarily need it this game as badly as the others. So I think his spot's still going to be secure, and hopefully he can get some work in against Carolina. The outside linebackers, a good day all around, definitely. Keon Adams continues to get some pressure. The big name here is Ola Adeniyi. I think he's been one of the most impressive guys in camp as a pass rusher and as his run defense, and he's just a really well-rounded player. I think that has great hand use, great power, and is a guy that's not a liability in really any one area, pass or run. There's definitely concerns about his coverage and both dropping into coverage as an edge rusher and covering on special teams, but you're just seeing a kind of a well-roundedness to his game that's unusual for any rookie, let alone an undrafted free agent. So a guy that is definitely making himself a tough cut. And I know I had him off my last 52-man roster. He was that 54th guy for me, but definitely a guy that's making a compelling case to make the 53, or two, telling the team they don't need to add another edge rusher because Adams has been promising, Adeniyi has been promising. You have Chick, so if you want to go 5, you kind of have your 5. So now you're not desperate to try to bring somebody in. I think there's some potential with that group. So a nice day, I thought, overall for that group at a day and a especially. Inside linebacker, a better day for this unit collectively. I don't think anyone in this group played poorly. John Bostic still struggles with some of the run pass, keys off play action. But I didn't. I thought his run fits were good. I thought Medikevich had a nice day. Fort definitely popped. Nearly had the interception they got ruled as a down by contact, and then had a pressure that forced an incompletion late in the game. And then of course Vince Williams is Vince Williams, and then the big name Matthew Thomas getting to work with the ones. Now it is interesting because that package where they got Thomas on the field, they would remove outside linebacker Anthony Chickolo and play with 3 inside linebackers. Vince Williams would line up as the right outside linebacker. Then you would have Thomas and Bostic off ball. Obviously, when you get TJ Watt back out there for the regular season, you're not removing either edge guy. So what do you do there? Do you take an inside guy off, or do you take Matthew Thomas off? So there's a debate and discussion to be had there. But clearly, when you see a guy like him getting that kind of first team package work, he's making the team, and he could definitely have an impact, not just on special teams, but defensively this year as a potential sub-package role player. And if you get into week 8 or week 10 and Bostic struggling or whatever the case is, you could definitely see Matthew Thomas get some work defensively. And especially if Vince Williams is going to be the guy, as Dave and I talked about on the podcast Friday, if Williams is going to be the guy wearing the green dot and being the communicator in that role won't fall on Thomas's shoulders, and you feel a lot more comfortable putting Thomas out there and utilizing his athleticism and coverage ability without worrying about communication and recognizing fronts and getting everyone lined up where they need to be. If those duties go to a guy that you trust and a proven guy in Vince Williams. So a lot of intrigue and potential there with Matthew Thomas. So we'll see where he goes next week, but a guy I'm very confident is going to make the 53-man roster. Secondary to kind of round things out. Thought a solid day, a nice kind of a bounce back day for Brian Allen. I thought overall, Terrell Edmonds gets his first interception, a great play there. I love the interception. I love the ball and kind of game awareness even more. Knowing he's not touched, get up immediately and then get a net of 30 yards coming back the other way to put the offense in really good field position. So some nice heady kind of play from a rookie and Terrell Edmonds. Mike Tomlin always stresses that kind of stuff and watching guys that are instinctual and know the situation, know the rules, and are quick processors. And you saw that immediately from Terrell Edmonds. Elsewhere, just good to get some of the guys out there. Joe Hayden, get him to play. He played even into the third quarter, so I'm okay with that. They need snaps. This unit needs to play together. Still missing pieces, not having Hilton, not having Burnett, not having Watt. That's tough, so you need to get as many healthy guys as you can, as many snaps as possible, because they just have not played much as a unit so far. And obviously Hayden missed the first 2 games as well, so good to see him out there. Kind of a nondescript day, but that's okay for a cornerback. Elsewhere, good to see Marcus Allen back out there. I know there's been some talk about Nat Burhay. Is he going to make the roster? I'm pretty confident he's going to make the roster. Continues to thrive on special teams, and that's what he was brought in for. He was not brought in to play safety. He is going to be, generally speaking, a liability at safety, but as a special teamer, he's definitely a core 4-face guy, and he continues to show that. So I don't think there's a concern there. Sean Davis was fine. Just again, good to get him back out there in game action. And I think that's basically all I had there. Just a good day overall for the defense. A nice bounce back game. Still some communication problems. Mariota could have had a wide open touchdown to Corey Davis, but he skipped the pass and missed the opportunity. So still some issues there. But again, a defense that just has not really worked together too much. When you don't have Morgan Burnett out there, you have a pretty young / inexperienced secondary. Obviously, Edmonds being a rookie, Sean Davis playing a new role at free safety. So things that have to get cleaned up there. It could have looked a lot worse had the Titans been able to capitalize on their opportunities and their moments, but obviously it didn't happen. And I think overall you feel much better about the defense's performance this week than you did coming off the mess of the Packers game and what that was. So, again, coming out with good health. You got a game, quick turnaround Thursday, 7:30 against Carolina. Obviously, anyone that really of any major significance will not play in this game. So it's a good chance for the backup and the reserves and guys that aren't going to make the 53 but are potential practice squad candidates or get good tape kind of guys that can hang around on the tryout circuit or go to another team it's a good opportunity for them. So I'm always watching that preseason finale closely, even if it's not going to have many of the names that most fans are familiar with. So let me know your thoughts. I know I went probably way too long. Should have checked how long this video was while I was talking, but that's how it goes for me. So let me know your thoughts below on the Steelers Titans game, position battles, and guys that impressed and guys that disappointed. And leave a comment below whether you're watching on YouTube, Steelers Depot, or follow me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.